Trump speaks with Putin about war in Ukraine. Critical weeks ahead in U.S. decision on supporting strikes deep into Russia, and how Saratov, hit by blast, local airport suspends operations. We will talk about this with Michael Sheitelman, a political strategist based in Kyiv. Michael, glad to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Olga.
Michael, Trump speak with Putin. The Washington Post reports that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump held a phone conversation with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. This was their first phone call since Trump's victory in the election. Do you agree that Trump would engage with Putin regarding a diplomatic solution in the war in Ukraine? Can Trump urge Putin to avoid escalation in Ukraine? How do you think?
Well, at least it is very important what the first ideas which Mr. Trump, President-elect Trump, brought to Mr. Putin. And according to this report in Washington Post, and we can trust only this report because this is the only information that we have. So we have, I believe, three basic points. First, that Mr. Trump asked Mr. Putin avoid an escalation. That was the first. Second is Mr. Trump is ready to discuss the Ukrainian territory, which Ukrainian territory will be occupied by Russia and which will not be occupied by Russia. This is the first, by the way, this is the first negotiation with Mr. Putin when anybody from Western leaders, I mean the big Western leaders, not the Hungary Prime Minister, are ready to discuss Ukrainian territory as a territorial question, yeah? And the third one that Mr. Trump mentioned in this conversation is the armed forces of United States inside Europe. That means it was the threat towards Putin. And also, this is the first such a strong threat towards Mr. Putin in last 3 years of full-scale Russian-Ukrainian war. So that's it. So Mr. Putin could see the chance in this discussion about territories on one hand, and on the other hand, Mr. Putin should listen to President-elect Trump and to understand that Mr. President-elect Trump could use his or United States armed forces against Russia if Mr. Putin denies the new ideas of Mr. Trump.
Very interesting thing that the Kremlin has denied reports that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump recently spoke with Vladimir Putin, stating that there are currently no concrete plans for any talks, according to Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. Peskov told journalists, quote, "This is completely untrue, this is pure fiction, it's just false information," Peskov told journalists. And also, Ukraine's foreign ministry refuted claims that Kyiv was forewarned about a phone conversation between U.S. President-elect Donald Trump and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. So Ukraine, therefore, could neither support nor oppose this conversation. But how do you think Ukraine support nor oppose this conversation? How advisable is any contact with Putin now?
Well, that fact that Ukraine didn't know about this call, it was rather obvious, and it was very strange to read in the Washington Post that it was somehow discussed with Ukraine before the call itself. It is not the President-elect Trump style, let's say. So this is rather usual situation that we will have during next 4 years, that nobody will ask Ukraine about these calls. This is not Mr. Biden. We are not in the time of political correctness, etc., etc. So that's okay. That is the fact, and we should manage with this fact that this is the Mr. Trump style. And also, obviously, we and Ukrainian nation and Ukrainian government, we know that one of Mr. Trump's goals about this war is to stop this war as quick as he can. Yeah, that's obvious. And he promised that first day after his election, he will call Mr. Zelensky and he will call Mr. Putin, and he just did that. So it doesn't depend on our attitude anyway. And what depends on our attitude, it is what is the offer of Mr. Trump towards Mr. Putin. And I believe that Ukraine worked about that somehow with Mr. Trump team and transition team of Mr. Trump. And also Ukraine will continue this work about persuading Mr. Trump that, okay, this is our red lines, etc., etc. What about press secretary of Russian President Putin, Mr. Peskov, who said that there was no call? This is rather strange news. Nobody can exactly say why Mr. Peskov denies this fact when this fact is obvious. Because Washington Post is not some yellow pages, and this is a very serious newspaper, and this newspaper published that with some sources around Mr. Trump. And this is very responsible newspaper. So obviously we can believe that 99% that this call existed. So why press secretary of Mr. Putin denies that? The only version I could bring, it is to deny everything. Like, you know, the policy of Russian government, of Russian management, is to deny everything which is not initiated by Russia. Some facts were initiated by Russia. Then they report, okay, we initiated this step or this step or this step. But everything, every situation when somebody else initiated, like in this case, it was Mr. Trump in the United States. So we deny that. We deny that. We are not in charge of the results of that. This is rather a strange position, but we have what we have.
And not only Trump wants to speak with Putin, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has once again stated that he would like to have a conversation with Russian terrorist Vladimir Putin. According to Tagesschau, Scholz mentioned that he had resolved to talk to Putin at the right time. He said, quote, "But I am a responsible politician, and I want to do this alone," he said, adding that dialogue with Putin would require many contacts and discussions with other people. He also noted that this issue must be discussed with Ukraine. What do you think about this news that Scholz intends to resume talks with Putin soon?
We should account that most of German population were for this call of Mr. Scholz towards Mr. Putin. There was opinion poll in Germany, and 59% were for this call, and only 29 or something were against this call, obviously. And Mr. Scholz, he probably will meet a general election next. Next short period. We can't say when exactly it will be conducted in Germany, January, March, February, something like that. So now Mr. Scholz behaves as the popular leader, as a leader of German nation. If German nation support this call, so why not to call? But on the other hand, Mr. Scholz, Chancellor Scholz, he said in this conversation with German newspaper that he is not ready to do that alone. And that is a new idea. It means that he is ready to participate in American talks, probably, because we don't have any other talks. He said, I don't ready to do that alone. And we heard the same sentence from Mr. Scholz. Then he spoke about tanks, for example, for Ukraine in our past. He said about tanks, it was almost 2 years ago, that we are ready to supply tanks to Ukraine, but we are not, will be alone in this case, yeah? And he waited till President Biden decided to supply American tanks, and just when Germany decided to supply German tanks. Now the same situation. When America starts the peace talks with Russia, when Germany immediately ready to participate. Also, that means that Chancellor Scholz, he doesn't have some personal strategy for these peace talks. Because we don't believe that he just wants to call as a symbolic jest or something. He wants to call Mr. Putin as a part of a bigger process of peace talks with Mr. Putin. So he is ready to take a part in something which has some positive perspective and not to start from the scratch. This is his position, and we heard this position during the last 3-4 months, I believe. Until now, he didn't call.
And also, as Donald Trump's election win brings the prospect of talks to end Russia's war in Ukraine closer, Kyiv is battling to put itself in the strongest position for any negotiations, including by securing more arms and holding out on the battlefield, reports Reuters. A senior Ukrainian official said that the next 4 to 5 months would be pivotal, signaling how Trump's return to the White House is focusing minds in Kyiv on a possible end game in the war. Can we say that Ukraine battles to shape starting positions for any war talks after Trump return? Your expectation for next 4 to 5 months?
Well, exactly. This is very critical, but very, very unpredictable, because it depends on the first move, and not first move of Mr. Trump, but the first move of Mr. Putin. We are in a rare situation, then we very depend on Mr. Putin's opinion, really. Because more or less, we can describe what will be the position of Mr. Trump on this negotiation, what exactly will be the offer of Mr. Trump towards Mr. Putin. We can describe that. Okay, it depends where he offered to make the temporary border between Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, it depends to move here or to move here. But generally, we can say what he wants. But we absolutely don't know what will be the answer of Mr. Putin. Just today, we had the showcase. We had exactly the showcase of that. Then Mr. Trump called Mr. Putin, and Mr. Putin denies that fact. So it is difficult to say what will be the reaction of Mr. Putin to real peace plan of Mr. Trump. Now, this month, I mean November, December, January, we are in the time then new President Trump team prepares the peace agreement to Mr. Putin. Yeah, but in end of January, beginning of February, we will have the real answer from Mr. Putin, and it can be also positive, but it doesn't look like that. It could be negative, and it could be rather the no answer, like empty answer, like today. We didn't have any conversation, says Mr. Putin. So also after the offer, he could say, okay, I didn't see any offer. And this is the very Putin's policy, let's say. And then we will have second Trump move. And second Trump move could be just anything. New offer towards Mr. Putin, I don't believe. Rather some force action against Russia.
Also about one strange thing, Trump's son reposted a video with caption saying Ukraine will lose allowance. Trump's son reposted a video with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump on Instagram on Saturday with the caption, "Poll point of view, you are 38 days from losing your allowance." The video shows Zelensky looking sad next to Trump, with the camera focusing on Zelensky's face, after which the video fades to black and white and dollar bills falling in front of the Ukrainian president. How do you interpret this for yourself?
Well, it is not very nice, not very nice situation when some guy who is just some younger who never worked anyway except of his father's family business. So obviously, we never heard about any achievements of this guy. Just a guy who is, by the way, 45 years old, until now never worked anyway except of his father's business. So some person without any personal achievement published the thing which is very painful for all the Ukrainian nation. Because he thinks that our soldiers and our citizens, they die for money. In this vision, it means that Ukrainians, they die for money and not for homeland and not for freedom and not in the war against the Russian aggression. They like our receive just think about money. But it is not true. In Ukraine, the idea is not money. It's homeland and freedom and to win this war. And it is very not nice also that President Trump didn't stop this guy. Because this is his son. And he can say, just remove that from your Instagram or something. And the most important situation will be if this guy, who is also not educated, not ever didn't work, if he will be appointed as an official advisor of Mr. Trump. And this is also Mr. Trump's style. As we remember from his first term, his official advisor was the husband of his daughter, Ivanka. So why not? So why not to appoint this 45 years old son? So this is not nice situation for us, yeah. And I believe that it is also difficult to react by official way, because this guy doesn't have any official position. It is just like some hater from internet. By the way, with Donald Trump Jr., he behaves like a hater in internet. If you follow his Instagram, he also published some hate speech about, for example, Stephen King, the writer, the very popular and most popular writer in the world. And this guy who is nothing, who is nobody, published hate speech about Stephen King, so not only about Mr. Zelensky.
Michael, I agree with you that for Ukraine, this money is not just money. It's, first of all, protection, because we see Russian attack Mykhailo with drones killing people today. Russian launch airstrikes on Zaporizhia. Russian ballistic missile hits Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih. And we have interaction from civilized world, especially from Trump, who threatened Putin with strike on Moscow over possible invasion of Ukraine. But about Biden, the administration of US President Joe Biden may change its position on strike deep into Russia with long-range weapons. The next few weeks may be crucial, says Yegor Chernev, deputy chairman of the National Security and Defense Committee of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Now that the US election has passed, don't you rule out the possibility that there will be a change of position in the Biden administration's cabinet? Moreover, he has nothing to lose. He has few months left to transfer power.
No, that sounds like a very theoretical answer, because it looks like President Biden now out of business. I'm sorry to say, but it really looks like. We didn't hear him about Russian-Ukrainian war at all. Just no reaction. There was almost no reaction about North Korean troops, for example. All the reaction of President Biden of sending North Korean troops towards Europe, yeah, it was just 2 or 3 words, like it is very dangerous or something like, I don't remember exact quote, but it is not the reaction of the strongest man in the world, yeah? It is not the reaction. And last shootage which we watched on TV of Mr. Biden, it looks like he is on vacation. No, he is not in fact on vacation, but it looks like. And I believe that in Europe, European leaders, they are in shock about that, really. I heard that today there was a conversation or meeting between President of France and British Prime Minister. And they discussed what they should do to press Biden to ensure Ukrainian supply to Ukraine new missiles and supply to Ukraine of new weapon till the end of Mr. Biden term, and also about this issue of to allow to strike towards Russia inside Russia. But the Prime Minister of United Kingdom and President of France were ready to take a lead in this process. Because just yesterday we had a news that France, they decided to supply the new rockets, Scalp rocket, towards Ukraine. But to use it inside Russia, we need American permit because part of this rocket is produced in United States. But it looks like President Biden just didn't do any moves, just didn't do any decision about our war now. Maybe he's in shock about about losing his party, losing general election. Maybe, I don't know. Only Mr. Sullivan, Jake Sullivan, who is the advisor of Mr. Biden, he said that till end of this year, United States will supply us weapons for $6 billion. $6 billion in 50 days. 50 days. Let's compare it in previous period. I could say that during last half a year, from the April, then the law was, when the law about $60 billion was done in American Congress, we received weapon for $4 or $5 billion. So in next 50 days, United States plan to supply more weapon than in last half a year. And is it realistic? I'm not sure from the logistic point of view. And does America has enough weapon on the storage? I don't know.
Michael, also, we don't have much time, but at the very end, the Russian city of Saratov may have been struck. Temporary restrictions on aircraft arrivals and departures were introduced at the local airport. According to Andriy Kovalenko, head of Ukrainian Center for Countering Disinformation, something has hit in Saratov, Kovalenko wrote. Also, we remember that Ukraine attacks Moscow with 34 drones, biggest strike on the Russian capital. How do you think how these attacks impact Russian people and also Putin?
Okay, this is two very different attacks. Today's attack on Saratov, it is a very practical step. Because this night, Russians, they planned to make a strike against Ukraine by strategic aviation, Russian strategic aviation. And when they do that, they take off in Murmansk, in the north of Russia, and they land in Saratov. Near Saratov, it is Engels Airport. So our strike towards Saratov was just to make it as impossible, this Russian strike towards Ukraine. So this was absolutely like, military process. Doesn't connect with any politics or with any opinions of Russian people or Mr. Putin. So it was like just battlefield inside Saratov, yeah? But what happened the previous night in Moscow, when we sent 30-something, I don't remember exactly, drones towards Moscow, yeah, it was the also political answer, not only military. We used military targets, but the gesture was political gesture, not only military. And it was the answer for this daily routine of striking Kyiv, Ukrainian capital, by Russian drones. So Ukrainian army and Ukrainian politicians, they answered towards Putin. You see, we also can do that, and we have enough drones. And it is true that we have enough drones because I believe in October we had also nights with 100 Ukrainian drones attacked Russia. So we have enough drones to attack Moscow, like Russians have enough drones to attack Kyiv. So it was a political answer. But Putin doesn't care, really. Putin doesn't care. Putin doesn't care about his nation, about his people. And we heard Mr. Putin last week. he had a very long speech of 2.5 hours about Russian politics and about Russian strategy. And his strategy is just to destroy Western civilization. This is not anything else. This is to destroy Western civilization. His main point in his very long speech was Western civilization is dead, and Western civilization is controlled minority of people, and minority of people who is NATO citizens and European Union citizens. They try to rule the majority of India, Bangladesh, Nigeria, or Iraq, or Pakistan, or something like that. So this is like a rebel of word majority against word minority. This is the main thesis of Mr. Putin. So he is ready to World War III. The question is, are we ready or not?
Michael, as usual, thank you for interesting and important conversation. I thank you for supporting our country. Guys, subscribe on our channel, like this video, and see you. Michael Sheitelman, a political strategist based in Kyiv, was with us today. See you and have a good day.
Thank you.